I'm not on Instagram, Facebook's X. What's the other one? TikTok. Well, yes, I'm on LinkedIn, but I deleted the app from my phone a few months ago. I know that a lot of people talk about wanting to reduce their time spent on scrolling on their phone and on social media. So I'm going to share with you the three main benefits that I notice in not having social media. Because I'm not active on social media, I'm buying a lot less of what I don't need. You know, these days it's very difficult to go anywhere or do anything without a device tracking what you're saying, what you're searching. And the moment that you search for a particular product, even on a web browser, very soon you'll see that product being recommended to you in or on on YouTube, or as an ad panel in a website that you're looking at, or even by a text message. I know Sephora does this a lot. With this constant bombardment of advertisements always coming at you from left, right, and center, I understand that it's very difficult to not be influenced into buying trash that you don't need. And in fact, this is how these social media companies make money, by influencing you or hire content creator or influencer to convince you to buy more of the things that you don't need. And you don't need me to tell you that overconsumption is a big problem. It's a big problem for our home, it's a big problem for our planet and for personal finances. So by staying off social media, all the things I have brought into my home are much more intentional, useful, well thought out, and they all have a home to live. By staying off social media, you are cutting down overconsumption. I'm also avoiding com- comparison between myself and other people out there. Back in the day when, like 15, 20 years ago, when social media was not quite a thing, people compare themselves to their immediate circle, the people they go to school with, the people they work with, the people in the same village, in the same street, people growing up together. And that was everyone that we used to compare ourselves to. But with the invention of social media, that village had exploded. So now we have easy access into knowing what someone else on the other side of the ocean is doing, or we know what our twice removed cousin who is living in Australia is doing with his life. Well, that is good in terms of product connectivity. I would argue that it does a lot of damage to our mental health. This constant state of comparing ourselves or myself to other people is not helpful. People tend to put their best feed and their best faces on social media. So what you see is a very curated and finished product. You don't really see all the messes going on um, behind all of that. So I think it's very unfair to compare ourselves to someone else's best case scenario. So by staying off Facebook, particularly Instagram, I think Instagram is likely the worst for this. I go through a lot less of comparison. I mean, yes, I still get notification on LinkedIn, but I'm learning to pay less attention to that and more on what's really going on in my life. There is really no need to be constantly connected and compares ourselves to other people. In fact, that might be a sign that we are not using our time in the most productive way. So instead of paying attention to what other people are doing and compare myself to them, I spend time doing things and activities and learning that will benefit me. And I keep myself busy so that I don't have time to do all of this comparison. And what it really brings is inner peace and focus. The last benefit is probably the most important, and that is staying off social media contributes significantly to critical thinking skills and independent opinion. When someone is constantly on social media, they are getting fed other people's ideas, opinions, thinking. It is actually very difficult to form independent thoughts when you are constantly being fed someone else's thinking. To me, the overconsumption of other people's idea without processing, without having enough time and mental bandwidth to process and distill these ideas and make it our own, is akin to eating all the time but not going to the washroom, if you know what I mean. You know, when someone is constantly consuming but not digesting, distilling, and creating, there is a form of mental bloat that blocks that person's ability to form his or her own opinion about a particular event or idea. So I particularly dislike social media for that. I think that social media is being used by a lot of actors out there. It's not just companies, but also political parties to push their agendas and opinion to in attempt to convince people to think and to act in a certain way that feed their agenda and interest. And I think being being presented with that sort of pre-thought out idea, which doesn't require any mental process at all, is very harmful to our independent thinking and critical thinking process. So the way to really avoid that and to sharpen your critical thinking is, in addition to staying off social media and over consuming content, is also to create more, create with your hands and your mind, by writing, drawing, or distilling ideas into a YouTube video like this. I find that creating content or videos or long form videos or essays is a lot more productive, for the lack of a better term, for mental development. So for me, I think this benefit is probably the most significant out of the three in why I do not participate actively on social media. So I definitely have no plan to participate in social media in the near or long-term future. And I hope that I have convinced you to at least give it a try, try to stay off social media for, a day, a week, or a month, and experience the benefit for yourself. And I hope that, all of that time that you take back will be redirected to a useful and productive activities. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Tu. I live in Vancouver, British Columbia, and I make these videos to document my development process and also to help people like me, 30 something year old, still trying to figure out life, to navigate different situations. And with that, I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in next video.